Good evening, everyone. Great to see actually a good crowd and this school is actually one of the first schools which I visited in Assam. I think 3.5 years back. Nostalgic. Good to see a lot of people. I think some of you might remember me. I don't know. I remember all of you. So just before I start, so today, great beginnings with Professor Katan Shukla talking about socioeconomic fabric, then Mr. Hazarika talking about really thought-provoking things as a person who kind of was on the board. My talk today would be more based on the topic of where our kids are going into and how, from that context, how should we see education as schools from the management perspective and also from the learner's perspective. So how the world is evolving and how you need to adapt. That's the topic of evolution and adaptation. So the point is, thanks Professor Katan Shukla for putting up the socio-economic fabric, because that lays the foundation of, so we don't need to talk about it, they has clarified it enough on it. So I'm probably building on top of it. So if I'm missing out on the socio-economic fabric, so I'm actually taking out that part because it's already covered. Just before I talk, while I was talking about the case study, so because I also I'm closely working with around 8,000 kids right now. The generation where we are actually addressing right now, exactly at this moment, the people who are there in the schooling system, it's a very interesting generation. I call it interesting because if you actually, as a management graduate, I draw a 4x4, 2x2 matrix. The generation where let's look at probably my father's generation or the elders who are sitting here, their generation. It was all, as Pankaj sir told, it's more about, studying matriculation is, kind of a benchmark. And the people who came out of that generation also kept that as a benchmark. So people are cool about it. My generation, it's not as aspirational, but, cracking IIT is like the top. But even if you enter Andhra University, you're okay. So it's not like world is falling down or the heavens are falling type attitude which parents have shown. Probably it is because they didn't feel that rush in their life, and they didn't want us also to feel that rush every day. Even though there are exams, my mom always wanted me to go out and play, irrespective of whether there is exam or something else. She didn't care about whatever is happening in academic life. Just live your life, in your childhood. That's always been my mom's dictation. But this generation, it's extremely interesting to watch. This generation where they are unaware about what is happening outside in the next probably 10-15 years. Neither do the students. So previously also the same thing, but there was never the rush. But the increased insecurity, actually all these conferences, why were they not happening previously at this same intensity? I think probably everyone is thinking of the same thing, that look, there was an kind of unstoppable anxiety in every parent's mind in terms of what is going to happen to my kid probably 10-15 years down the line. Even the most technologically advanced jobs, whatever people are doing, I have seen them day in, day out. So it's a very interesting generation. I just want to kind of put that up just before you. Just a small check in the audience. How many are teachers over here? Can you just show a small raise of hands? Okay, fair enough. I'll come to you later. I'll start with a question. The question is, how many of you in the audience, teachers, non-teachers, graduates, or whoever you are, how many of you are scared about technology and the advancements and what it's going to do to our kids probably 10-15 years down the line? Just
being scared.
How many of you are scared?
Why should we?
So so there are some of the people who are scared because of the fact that these people won't get jobs. A very straightforward reason for it. So some of them are scared. So probably it can be true. Probably it may not be true. Nobody knows. But actually, I'm just trying to just depict whatever is visible to us at this point of time. I'll just start with a small video of what is actually happening now. It's not a projection into the future, but it is what the technologies which are happening right now. I'm just.
Five future technologies that will change the world. Number 5, powered exoskeletons. According to Stephen Hawking, humans are entering a stage of self-designed evolution, taking the medical technology idea to the next level. Healthy humans will be given the tools to augment themselves. Think of Stephen Hawking and others who suffer from ALS and gradually lose the ability to move their body. Brain-controlled computers, in combination with other technologies, will change all of that. The future holds new wearable exoskeletons to boost strength and endurance with interchangeable limbs to match capabilities to tasks. Many companies out there are not only trying to assist with the disabled, but to evolve the human race. Number 4, augmented reality. Wearable technology is the integration of digital technology with clothing. Precursors to this include heart rate monitors and pedometers. The wearable tech scope is broader and involves more functionality. Google is taking it several steps higher with Google Glass. Theoretically, with Google Glass, you are able to view social media feeds, text, Google Maps, as well as navigate with GPS and take photos. Competing products will surely hit the market in the near future with wearable tech, with integrating computing capabilities with wristwatches, like the new Apple Watch, and even in tattoos, ensuring we can be linked up to the internet everywhere we go, and can be getting digital assistance for our daily lives. Number 3, driverless cars. I would have thought that flying cars would be the first candidate to hit reality, but it's the driverless car. Google has made some extraordinary leaps and bounds with the driverless car, where it has, as of April 2014, the Google team announced that their vehicle has now logged nearly 700,000 autonomous miles, about 1.1 million kilometers. Google plans to make these cars available to the public in 2020. Number 2, artificial intelligence is arguably the most exciting field in robotics. It's certainly the most controversial. Robotics are nowhere near achieving the level of artificial intelligence, but they have made a lot of progress with more limited AI. However, with the exponentially fast technological progression that we've seen in the 21st century, futurists believe that this will become more of a reality by 2030. This could mean that there will finally be a robot made for every household, or it'll mean the invention of Skynet's Terminator. Number 1, the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is transforming the everyday physical objects that surround us into an ecosystem of information that will enrich our lives. From household automation like the intelligent home, wearable tech like Google Glass, intelligent transportation systems, remote health monitoring, and even completely networked ubiquitous cities. The difference between the online world and the offline will effectively disappear as continuously connected devices fully disappear into our pockets, clothing, our jewelry, ourselves. We will not think of two different worlds. The Internet of Things will merge the physical and digital worlds and transform our lives quickly over the next decade.
Okay. So, I would like to just ask a question in terms of, as humankind, why are we doing this? We understood what, right? We understood what are we doing. But actually, why are we doing it? Any answers?
To make our life better.
Okay.
To know more things.
To know more things.
It's only to make our life better and better. That's the thing.
Okay. But are we not living our lives
me.
better?
Maybe others have different.
To have
Sure.
control over our surroundings, environment, or anything that is related to us.
Okay.
Know everything faster and faster.
Know things faster. Okay.
More creativity.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
First for knowing
Expanding the horizons of our mind.
Okay. Actually, you're connecting one device to the other. Let's take one example of Internet of Things. Internet of Things is basically, let's say this projector is talking to that fan is talking to that light, and everything is talking to the switchboard without your intervention. That's what is happening, right? So, I mean, horizons, we all have been living for billions of years. So even without this, we can live. Why? Why now and why this? don't think this like a technological discussion, because this is very much relevant as an educator to ask why. Because if you don't understand the bedrock of why are we already doing this, then there's no point of actually telling. It just lies in the realm of technology to actually answer all the questions related to this. But if you understand about why are we trying to do this, then you can actually direct your children towards this, which is why I'm asking. So rather, I would actually reveal it. So you see the graph over here, is it visible to the back? This is the explosion of population. This is the explosion of population from 1950s till now, and it's going to go exponentially. Now, the results of that population explosion and the services, so there are limited resources, there are consumers. The resources have been okay till now. When the population explosion is happening, you're not scaling up the resources as much. For example, these are the statistics, some of them. There is one for every 1700, close to 1700 people, one doctor for every 1700 people in this country. There are only 50 out of 100 people who own the vehicles over here. And there are hazardous jobs where people operate, where one every 3 days, one person dies in a mining accident every 3 days. This is the quality of life you're talking about. And electricity. One of the major problems we have because of the population explosion. If somebody has visited foreign countries, probably one very stark thing why they are okay and why we are not okay, if at all the comparison comes up, that comparison comes purely because of population explosion and nothing else. Intellect, everything is the same. Even in fact, we go beyond, what others cannot do. But the only thing is we don't have enough resources for whatever we have to cater to. Now, with these kind of problems, and the problems keep mounting day in, day out, and the kind of resources, for example, MHRD has announced too many IITs and IIMs, good, very good for the country. But still, I don't think there will be many people who will be kind of getting into that, how many ever number of institutes you have. So there need to be a scalable, normalized solution to all this, and that normalized scalable solution turns out to be technology. And these are the problems which I have shown you about electricity, health, the basic necessities required for our survival, and how I would just show you some of the young people or the new technologies, how they are actually solving these problems and what we can take from them.
Hi, I'm Scott Novick. I'm David Eagleman, and this is my neuroscience laboratory. And
so just to kind of give you a brief about what this is called sensory substitution. There are too many people around us. You would see definitely, people who are blind, people who have one sense, one of the sense organs cut off. So this is a technology called sensory substitution, where even if you don't have eyes, you can see. Even if you don't have ears, you can hear. How do you actually do that? That's the technology which these people are talking about.
We're changing the way brains read information from the world.
there are 50 million people worldwide who have deafness. And right now, the only available technology is the cochlear implant. The challenge with cochlear implants is that they don't always work for everybody. They're expensive, they require an invasive surgery, and if you're born deaf and you get one too late, they don't tend to work very well. With this project, we're hoping to change that. In 1969, a scientist named Paul Bach-Urita put people in a dental chair, and there was a video camera, and the video feed fed into the back of the dental chair. So you put a circle in front of the camera, and you feel the circle in your back. And what he found is that blind people were able to come to understand what was in front of the camera by the skin of their lower back. So sensory substitution is the idea of taking information from one sense and feeding it into another sense.
So how could this be applied to hearing?
Our sensory substitution device is this vest. And the way this vest works is that sound from the environment is taken in
through your smartphone. And the smartphone takes care of all the sorts of signal processing that goes on with the audio signal, and sound from the environment gets converted into patterns of vibration on the skin. And the idea is the brain gets the information from the torso and can figure out how to interpret that information. Our device is actually pretty similar to a cochlear implant. At the end of the day, both are actually just sending electrical signals into the brain just through different pathways. So we estimate that our device will cost the consumer less than $2,000. A cochlear implant, on the other hand, has a lower bounded cost of about $40,000.
Because of its cost, we can disseminate this solution to people around the world who otherwise couldn't afford surgery. When you first put the vest on, there are patterns of vibration that are difficult to interpret. But through training, one becomes very good at understanding what is being felt on the skin. And after 2 weeks, this should transition into a direct perceptual experience.
This sensory substitution project will be the kind of highest throughput example of sensory substitution today. We're really pushing the limits in terms of how much information we can send through the human body. With this project being successful, this will open up the door to a whole new market of really neat sensory devices and ways of feeding cool, atypical information.
This understanding of the brain opens new worlds of possibility. This will be a cheap, non-invasive solution they can wear under their clothing, and it'll change our concept of sensory perception.
We hope you join us on this awesome journey in science.
Thank you very much for watching our Kickstarter video.
How do you like it? It solves the problem, right? Solves the problem of a blind, solves the problem of a deaf. There's one more, which actually is a very similar example to Indonesia, which is even lesser than what we are. And he's a small mechanic. He loses an arm in an accident or semi-paralyzed, and he develops an arm for himself. So for a scooter mechanic not attending a school, if he can actually do something like this, which can solve a lot of problem in the world, now we need to imagine ourselves in terms of with the infrastructure. There are two things which pop up. With the infrastructure, what can we do with our kids in the schools to become relevant? So for me, relevance means this. Yes, socio-economic, cultural factors, the softer aspects of infrastructure, they all matter. But the point is, with all that, we've been working on top. There are good schools. There have been good schools for the last 50 years, right? Been good schools, but still unemployment rate has hit very high. So is that enough, or should you actually move on and try to solve the problems? So I think my answers lie in the fact that there are real life problems, tons of them outside, and if you don't solve that problem, definitely nobody is going to employ us for sure. In the future, the jobs are going to go off, but I think the producers or the people who produce the making revolution, that is what we need to aim at. That is what it all points out. And ultimately, why do we use technology? should we be scared of technology? I don't think we should be scared of technology, because one day or the other you need to solve all the problems in this world. And the problems in this world are, as the population keeps increasing, you need to have healthcare, you need to have food, you need to have basic infrastructure, you need to have safety. How many people actually, if you have lived in Hyderabad and Bangalore of the world, you would actually understand that there are too many people who climb on top of the buildings of TCS and Infosys and clean their walls. Is it hazardous? Not hazardous. Mining, hazardous. There are too many hazardous jobs for which you can use machines, and there I would be more than happy if we lose jobs. But the point is, you need to have machines, beside you, and ultimately what essentially are you trying to do is you're trying to just create an intelligent machine. If you're doing a driverless car, what you're actually worried about is the safety. So you don't need to be accident prone all the time, or you don't need to face inconvenience while you're driving. So you're actually pushing towards convenience and solving all these basic problems of your survival. That is essentially what is technology. Now that if we actually accept all these, should we actually drive our students towards technology? What are the things? The ask is too high. Let's all kind of accept the fact it's actually on the face. We cannot actually wait till the students go to any IIT or even an engineering, or for that matter, probably till the age of 16, 17, to suddenly get into a mindset of creating things. It happened with me. I'm talking with my personal example. I always used to create things in I still remember me and my brother, the day on which we were taught electromagnet, we just burnt the whole AC in our, at our house. We didn't know. My teacher didn't tell me that it works on DC. I kept it on AC. And the whole apartment has got, the whole mains got blasted. So, but, that didn't continue. The spark should continue. When you actually have, and I'm sure there will be tons of people like this and probably successful than me on, in creating some of the stuff. Probably this mechanic is much successful than me. But the point is, can we as schools provide that support system for the child to continue that? Do wrong things. A lot of people, Apple is born in a garage. There are tons of these companies which are born in a garage. Garage is a place, it's not an infrastructure, but it is a mindset. Garage is a place of unstructured play. You can do literally anything and everything, you can burn whatever you want. And ultimately from the burning you realize that, look, this is the way it burns, so I don't do this again. Unstructured play. How many of us as schools are providing that avenue for unstructured play in our own schools? And without that, how will the support system be? We've been doing all these things. We have been doing, we have been achieving fantastic scores. Sorry if my voice is a bit harsh, but the point is, it's the reality. It's on the face. If you actually go and talk to any CEO of the company, he'll say you're doing bullshit. Sorry, literally, it's irrelevant. The subject, I develop curriculum, and I develop curriculum for primary kids using play. I didn't introduce myself, sorry. I develop curriculum through play, and there are some other things like probability need to be introduced at grade 1 so that the progression happens. And how many people hated probability when they actually saw it for the first time? How many of you? Many of you, right? Even I did. Because that's the point of disconnect, and you fly off, you never come back to math again. Many of you people who actually study arts and humanities, they don't study because of the love towards art and humanity, but they actually study that because of the hatred towards math. Why do you do that? It's basically, and people come at me because, they say that, look, this is out of syllabus. Yes, it is out of syllabus. If you don't accept, I don't care. Because the point is the student needs it. If you don't build, can a grade 1 child not predict whether it will rain today? Can he not? He can, right? Can he not predict whether he can ask a chocolate to her mom, to his mom, whatever? His predictions is starting at grade 1 and you are introducing in grade 6, and the making of things, or the flame inside is burning right from the childhood, and you introduce him at the age of 17, 18. Done. By that time, flame has come into a spark, and after that nothing happens. Your world will still remain the same. There's one saying in Telugu actually, if you keep, one movie dialogue in Telugu, if you actually keep passing down the same from one generation to other, What's the change in this word? There's nothing. So garage is my beautiful favorite word, so which is why I keep referring to that. Garage is a place where people are born, mindsets are born. Try to put one in your school. That's so. Finally, very interesting statistic. India. This is Indian unemployment rate. People who are not graduates, they have lesser unemployment rate. As you keep studying, your unemployment rate goes increasing. This is a stat. So who is at fault? There are two things where we can actually we can do two things from this. One, we can pat on our back saying that, hey, till the time we made them study, unemployment rate is less. The other way to look at it is, we are the one who spoiled the entire generation when they actually went into engineering. Somebody actually referred in the previous conversation where the case, I think, of the second child, whether the scientific thinking, how can she become a scientist? She can become a scientist if the teacher, how many people actually went into art and music because they liked the way music teacher inculcated music in her, or math teacher inculcated math. The way you actually make the child progress in her life is by making her interested in. That's the success of a teacher. And unfortunately, whoever teachers I've trained, 4 out of 5 math teachers say that they hate math. Check it in your own schools. I'm talking about my data. The teachers who I train, they bluntly tell me, of course I train in a very different way. We don't train like this, in a jovial way. We just ask her how many people hate math. And 4 out of 5 raise their hands. So basically, what do I do? Do I train you on math? Because you are just a teacher, so I have to train you. But the point is, on the other side, I know that it is a futile effort. So there you still need to build on. So we did not inculcate that engineering mindset in a gonna be engineering child. This is a matter of fact. We have sent them out, they have chosen the engineering discipline, but in math, science, or even in medicine or in the social, even the social aspects of the arts and humanities, whatever, we have not done our job. That's the hard reality of this. So I'm not saying that it's all done and dusted, but the point is, these are statistics which show up, and if we actually correct it, probably the next generations would benefit. And another beautiful word which we use these days is 21st century skills, right? Every marketer who comes to you comes with this word called, ma'am, we inculcate 21st century skill. And these are the 4 beautiful skills. Your critical thinking, creativity. And there's a professor called Professor Khandwala who has written a book called The Fourth Eye. And if somebody actually reads that book, he'll actually open both the eyes. Fourth eye will open both your eyes. That creativity is actually a science. And it has, if you work on diversified problems, you bring in answers from one discipline to the other, that is when creative thinking comes. In a school, within your classroom, all these 4 can never be developed. Whichever curriculum you take, I bet. Critical thinking, all these 4, in this context of schooling, extremely selfish. If you actually go out and solve auto rickshaw wala's problem, if you solve probably a doctor's problem, probably a sweeper's problem, apply problems all across, that is when your critical thinking or your creativity gets inculcated. It cannot be done. It's a very selfish word. All these 4 are within yourself. They can never be done. So this is also something which you need to be aware of. If you have to inculcate, yes, these are good words. If you have to inculcate to the spirit. Let's not get into just those 4 words, and critical thinking means HOTS, higher order thinking skill questions. Higher order thinking question is just a question. It just doesn't get out of your mind. It's just it's there on the paper, solve it and done and dusted. There's nothing to solve. And finally, I had a lot of agony. I'm sorry if I'm getting emotional while I'm talking, but the point is, when I find answers to all these things, I have gotten back and back and back. And this is classical mathematics which Socrates and Plato used to teach. And their education, how many have ever wondered, this whole education system, we have been running institutes for 25, 30, 50 years, 60 years, right? Before that, how was education like? Even before that, how was education like? How did Socrates, Plato, how did they learn? At that time, what was the education like? The point is, they actually had something called trivium and there is something called quadrivium. What is trivium? Are the basic fundamental fabric called logic, language and grammar. With logic, language, grammar, you talk about the remaining 4 things, which are arithmetic, music. Arithmetic and music are related to numbers, which are discrete quantities. And the remaining, geometry and astronomy, are continuous quantities. And everything, all of your topics, 25 topics, 30 topics, whatever are there in your textbooks, they all fill in over here. You can just check. Take the photograph, go to your books, you'll figure out. It's all there. And why do you need 10 subjects and 20 chapters in each? This is the point. And this solves problems. It erases problems. When you're talking about geometry, you're talking about patterns. When you're talking about astronomy, you're talking about patterns, distances, trigonometry, geometry, everything comes in here. Need not be, there'll never be a day where a child should actually come back and say that, look, this question came from this chapter, this page number. And if we are actually ending up there, and I've seen many of the students, in fact, my classmates till now. So the education, what change has it come in the last 12 years? There are tons of conferences, thousands of people spoke about it. What's the change? Till now the student is saying that, look, this question has come from this chapter, this page number. Now this is the answer. Where is the change? What are we talking? Finally, the solution, what I found, and I kept on telling whoever are my friends about their kids' education, ultimately the work, whichever work we do in our whole world, it actually, for me, it boils down into 3 things: utilitarian art, liberal art, and fine art. Utilitarian art is that work which you do for somebody. You produce a material and sell it. Liberal art is something which you do for your own soul. And for your fine art also, you do it, but you are the master of doing it. The point is, try to look up these 3 things from a mindset perspective. Utilitarian art, you are actually trying to impress somebody or doing a job for somebody. Liberal art is actually loving the work which you do. Fine art is still you're working for somebody. If you don't change the mindset of your students in the school from a utilitarian perspective to a liberal perspective, things are going to go down the drain. This is hard reality which I have understood. So whatever they study, whatever they learn, they can be a tennis star, they can be a badminton star, they can be studying science or doing an experiment. Think it like a liberal art. Just do for the love of it. Forget about the future. And ultimately, you will reach a destination where your soul will be satisfied at least. And ultimately, satisfied souls make this world. So, I come to the end. This is the last slide. Yeah, sorry. So, the point is, I'm done, but the point is, I just want to make a couple of things probably as a framework. What can be a role of the school in the whole thing to be relevant in the game? Identify interests and abilities of the child, which is very, very important. Need to be, I mean, you must have heard it a million times, but need to be carefully assessed. Support system in goal setting. One of the, basically Professor Katan Shukla also spoke about the support system. Support system in goal setting. Creating support groups, may it be about arts groups, humanities groups, creating clubs, whatever you want to do. But actually that club should not have, very specific, I know of people who just say that, look, you do this 1-2 things, you are done for the year. No, it should not be limited. The support group should not be limited. The support you provide also should be more, and what they need to be. Maker spaces are very important things. If probably one thing which you have to do immediately, what you can actually do is take some storage room in your school and convert them into a maker space. And all the others, like creating a culture of care and community. Professor Shukla has spoken about it. And this is very important. I think this summarizes whatever I'm saying. Learner. He's not a learner. He's a part of the society which is actually empowering the society. Try to think it in that perspective and your whole education will change. Thank you so much.